Do you understand why Taylor Swift is re-recording her albums?
I think I do, right?
Do you want to break it down a little bit?
Well, yeah, let's break it down.
And jump in here because I know that your husband works in the music industry and you probably have some inside running knowledge about this. But my understanding from my research and just understanding the music business in general, because of course I was the lead singer of 33
let's
Willie.
not forget that.
You
had record companies banging down the door.
Banging down the door. But luckily I knew not to get stuck with one of those silly contracts.
That's right.
Taylor went to a very small label out of Nashville when she first started to record, I think, her first 5 albums. She started very young at 15 years old,
Oh, yeah.
right?
She was a songwriter before anything else.
And she got a typical songwriting contract, which is we will front all of the money, the studio time, the energy, and the effort to develop you as a young budding musician. And for that, you are going to give us the rights to the master tapes that come out of those recording sessions known as the master publishing rights.
Right. Okay.
Of course, Taylor becomes huge right off the bat. Explosive, right?
Yeah.
In the most unbelievable way, Taylor becomes the biggest thing since sliced bread. Everybody knows she still is, but she's a superstar.
Taylor.
Yeah. The record companies do this hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times a year, or did at least when they were doing business as normal, put a lot of money, time, energy, effort, and studio time, production time into these young artists.
Yep.
But only one out of a million will be a Taylor Swift. So you imagine how much money they burn through just trying to develop these artists to eventually just kind of become like, just maybe they make a little bit of money or have a hit, one hit wonder, right? Taylor is the exact opposite to that. There are 2 different kinds of rights. There are many different kinds of rights, but essentially in this situation, for the sake of conversation, there are 2 different kinds of rights: the master publishing rights and the synchronization rights, also known as sync rights.
Okay.
When Taylor and the producers put those songs down on celluloid, they are there stuck forever, known as the master tapes, right? And so sometimes you'll hear about musicians fighting for their master tapes, like Michael Jackson or the Beatles or whatever. That's what they're talking about.
Michael Jackson bought the Beatles.
He bought the Beatles, and then Paul had to buy them back.
Yeah.
It's actually the 3rd time I think Paul has bought them back, which is what my next explanation. The synchronization rights. If I take that piece of music and I put it to a movie or a cartoon or a advertisement, exactly, then I have to get both the songwriting rights and I have to get the master rights, the original music as it stands on the celluloid, but then the person who wrote it, right? Which Taylor maintained the rights, most of her rights to that.
Yeah, she knew about the publishing rights. She had those.
Yeah. Most people have heard that trope. You know, you never give away your songwriting credit, right? Okay. So she kept the songwriting rights. They kept the master rights. Now, 95% of the time, what happens in these situations is that when an artist explodes like this, they will simply go, as they turn over a new leaf on a new contract, they will simply go to the Universal Music Group company, or BMG or whoever, and they'll say, hey guys, I'm going this way, or starting my own label. I would like to have my master rights. I like to have the masters, right? Which is essentially the rights to my master tapes and all of the original stuff from the studio.
Yeah.
And 95% of the time, something is negotiated.
Yeah, there's a deal that's made.
There's a deal that's made. But in this case, this small label, Bird Tree Studios or whatever it was, I can't remember the name of it, got in bed with a hedge fund and a gentleman named Scooter Von Braun. I think his name is Scooter Braun. What is his name? Scooter Braun?
Scooter Braun.
Scooter Braun, who's kind of like a music leech. He just runs around stealing money from musicians. He has no talent himself. I don't know. Yeah. I've just heard all bad things about Scooter.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's always around the worst situations. I think he was involved in the Britney Spears thing at one point. Yeah. He gets a hedge fund involved and he says, let's go buy these studio masters before Taylor has an opportunity to negotiate with them, or let's just make them a sweetheart deal they can't refuse. And that's exactly what happens. $300 million for the masters to her original. It's not like the old days when albums used to fly off the shelf at $25 a pop. Yeah. You're literally selling one song at a time for 99 cents, and the royalties aren't that much in the first place. But an artist like Taylor at least has a shot of making that $300 million back on her first 5 albums over the course of a period of time. Where you can really make the money is by selling it to movies and commercials. Because just playing it one time on the Conan O'Brien show could cost $1 million. You never know, right? How you negotiate these things. They're extraordinarily lucrative to sell these rights off to this. But Taylor never let that happen. She always would say no to the synchronization rights. She'd be like, nope, not going to do it unless you sell me back my masters. Scooter and this hedge fund, Shamrock,
Sham.
yeah,
Rock.
Shamcock, decides that they don't want to play ball with Taylor, and at some point it becomes a stupid investment to spend more than $300 million
For Taylor. To try and match that offer.
To match that
or
offer.
to buy that from them.
Yeah. She may not have the cash available to her. I'm sure she could get some investors to go in with her. But at some point, you got to say, how many fucking Spotify plays do I have to have in order to get $300 million back and then make a profit? And then if I get in bed with yet another hedge fund, they're going to take 30%. And so it's just going to become like a losing proposition. Everything has a price, and everything has a price that's too expensive.
Yes.
This is the reason why Taylor is re-recording almost the exact same songs.
Catalog.
All 5 of her first albums in the exact same manner in which they were recorded before. Now, you may
She's
ask.
added some extra stuff here and there.
Like any studio session, I know this from my Chopper Johnson days. Any studio session, there's stuff that gets thrown in the toilet. It's just not good songs. We didn't like it for the album. It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So she is taking a bunch of those old songs and adding them to the new albums.
Yes.
To the same songs, but adding them as a new bonuses to incentivize people to buy her version and not Scooter's version. Now, how can she get away with it? It's so smart.
I love it.
How can she get away with this legally? Well, here's why. Because she maintained the publishing rights. And so all Scooter has to go with is the stuff that's on the tape. He doesn't own any future versions of that song. Right. And all Taylor has to do, and what she has done, is gotten the same producers, some of the same musicians, and some of the same engineers
I love it.
to recreate what happened in that studio so many years ago. This is empowering. It is a lesson that should be taken by future musicians. I love this story. I love Taylor for doing this. I think it is so fucking cool of Taylor to say,
and
you know
all
what?
of her fans want to support her. They were pissed at Scooter. So, they're going to totally flock to everything new.
Yay, Taylor. Good for you.
Yes.
But this is a lesson for musicians in the studio waiting for someone to give you $600,000 to split between the 5 of you so you can actually get out of mom's, beat up Volkswagen.
Excited.
Don't be too excited. But I understand. I get it. If someone would have come to 33 Willie and offered them $100,000 to go in the studio, but we just want your first 5 albums, we would have been one of those people they lost money on. But let's just put it this way. We probably would have been like, I'm sure we'll have other albums. And that's probably what Taylor thought. And probably how she was advised. Like, there'll be other opportunities to make money. You go on tour, you sell merch, you do all this other stuff. But Taylor's version is the one you should listen to. And Taylor's version is the one you should buy because the money goes to Taylor Swift.
That's right.
And whether or not you think Taylor Swift needs another dime in her pocket is beyond the point. The point is that these sharks, they always end up winning in the end because they play the legal game better than everybody else does. But Taylor outsmarted him this time. I'm sure she had some help on this one. But and I mean, not to say she's not a smart person. She's obviously incredibly intelligent. But I'm saying I'm sure she had some lawyers like dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Yep.
But this is so intelligent. So when you see the same song that sounds almost exactly the same as it was the last time, and you're like, I wonder why there are 2 versions of this same song. It's because one person owns this version and Taylor owns that version. Shamcock and Scooter Von Braun own this version while Taylor owns that version. And that is why you should listen to Taylor's version.
Absolutely. And this is your music lesson for the day.
You have been schooled. Why is Taylor re-recording? Deconstructed.
That's right.
From your friends here at the commercial break, because we have experience with record culture. See you next time, TCB in the studio.